Hello everyone and welcome to Dramatic. I'm in the workshop today, which I am most days. I've had a kit brought in by Freddie Sheed, which is a lovely, you see that? Oh, it's a 70s jazzette. So we've got 12, 14, 18-inch bass drum, which I've already done. It's been brought in for a little bit of a service, as he's using it for sessions next week, and he just wants to make sure that everything's, fully up and running and sounding good and as best as it can be. One of the main issues which I'm going to be addressing is sort of like a ring that's coming from it from the springs on the lugs. So as most of you know, the lugs, these held on by screws, and inside there's the insert which holds the tension rod, so that's like a threaded insert sort of thing, and then there's a spring which pushes up on the inside. For a lot of people that's not really much of an issue sort of thing. If you're just playing it, still sounds great. But really for this kind of like this session work, they've got a lot of very high-end decent microphones, close microphones, they're going to be picking up everything. So we really need it to sound as good as possible. I mean, at the moment, if I hold that up, we can kind of hear. Don't know if the mics on this are picking it up. I'll whip it in the studio in a minute and we'll have a better look at it. So there's just like a hung on the end, which is those springs really just kind of vibrating and resonating within it, and that's really just not gonna be great when we're recording. So what I'm going to be doing, which I've already done with the bass drum, is I'm going to be stripping them right down. Again, there are a couple other little things that I'm going to be addressing for him. I'm going to take the lugs off and we're just going to pack them out. There are a couple different options for packing really. There's sort of a felt option or there's foam. And for this one, because there's quite a lot of space in those lugs, I'm going to be using foam just because it takes up more space. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to whip them to the studio and just get a slightly better microphone on them, just so we can before and after the packed lugs and just see if it's actually solved that ringing issue, see what we get from it. Again, the sound of that shell, let's get that up again. So you can definitely hear kind of like quite a nasty metallic kind of spring and twang in there. So yeah, let's take them apart and go from there. So I've made my way on over to the studio here at Dramatic, as you can see some of it in the background there, and I have the 12 by 8, there we go, lovely, 12 by 8 jazzette shell here just to do a little comparison with. Now I've taken the dampener out of this because I also need to tighten the dampener because that's rattling around a bit. The mount is on, I've tightened that right up. And we're just going to get a little comparison here. Obviously, there is a little bit of wiggle we're going to get from the inserts because the rods aren't in. But this should give us, a rough indication as to how the shell sounds with the hardware and just kind of probably accentuate the metallic spring that we're getting. So I've got a slightly better microphone over here, so we're going to switch microphones in a second. And this is it before. We've got no packing on the lugs, so let's see what the issue sounds like. Now we can hear that, quite metallic, and there's quite a lot of decay there. There is a slight rattle, which is obviously, like I say, the looseness of those inserts. So the rattle isn't an option because I know that's going to be solved once we put the tension rods on there. But that metallic issue is not going to be solved. We're still going to have that sort of high-pitched metallic, yeah, sounds like a spring really, whine in the shell. And again, for a lot of people this isn't really an issue. But when people are using these in studios with close microphones and stuff like that, sometimes these tones can bleed through and they can just be a real nightmare when you're sort of mixing and editing your music afterwards. So, as I said earlier, I'm going to whip this back to the workshop. I'm going to take the lugs off. I'm going to pack them out with some foam. We're going to bring them in, and then we're going to see what it sounds like then. Well, this is a tad embarrassing. I've got home to realise that the footage for the packed out lugs hasn't actually recorded. A lot of what I do is quite time sensitive, so I only actually had this kit for a day to do all the work I needed to do with it. And obviously I tried to film a YouTube video in between. And yeah, by the time I got home and realised that it hadn't recorded, all the work had been done, the kit was back together, Freddie had already collected it and he was over the moon with it, very happy chappy. and so I can't really go back and refilm that. I do, however, have the audio from the condenser mic that I was using to get a better sound quality. So here we go. I am back from the workshop, lugs all packed out on this one. Again, still keeping the tension rods off, so there might be a little bit of that kind of rattling. But yeah, we're just going to hold them up to the better microphone and we're just going to see kind of an A and B comparison and see, should sound a bit kind of, yeah, less metallic, less overtones, a bit deader, really. And there we go, a lot of that ringing has gone. Hopefully we can hear that through the microphone. So yeah, immediately I can hear a huge difference there. Obviously I'm right next to it, so it's very obvious for me. Hopefully you can hear that through the microphones. Let's just have a little bit of a clear A and B test on there. Okay, so we can hear it quite clearly there. There's quite a drop off in those high frequencies, those nasty frequencies that we were hearing before. The ring from the springs has pretty much, all gone, so we're not getting those nasty overtones. There's a flatter response. There's a bit of a truer kind of shell tone, really, because it's not being overshadowed by those horrible high pitch frequencies from the springs that we were getting before. Almost like a beach bally boom kind of thing where it was getting before, where it was just not really that clear, not very nice. And again, something that's going to get picked up on when you're using a lot of microphones in the studio. So eliminating that directly at the source on the kit saves so much hassle down the line. The 12-inch wasn't that bad. I mean, we can still hear it and everything in the videos, but the bigger the drums got, the worse it got, sort of thing, really. Because obviously when we're onto the bass drum, we've got more lugs, so there's more springs, more things to vibrate, more resonance, more of those unwanted tones. As we can see from the photo, the foam is packed behind the spring. So I've taken the spring out, I've put the foam in, I've put the spring back in, and that's filling the space between the lugs and the spring, but that's effectively muting the spring. The foam itself is not actually touching the shell, so there's nothing else touching the shell. There's no difference there's not foam padded between that's touching the shell, so no one's going to say, oh, there's actually more touching the shell, because there's not. In terms of mass, I mean, the foam itself is absolutely, it weighs nothing, sort of thing. So we're looking at grams, not even grams per shell, sort of thing. So it's not like I'm adding mass into there, which I know some people have done. I've seen people screw up like kitchen towel, or screw up like quite heavy weighted things and really pack lugs out and shove them right in there, sort of thing. And that, I suppose, could add mass to it, but we're not doing that today, so it doesn't matter. Now, this isn't an issue for all drums and all lugs. Not every lug has a spring inside. Some have plastic inserts. Some, say like tube lugs, for instance, are directly threaded into the metal. So you won't be getting this ring in the first place from those ones, because there won't be springs to vibrate. In this case, we're looking at Ludwig lugs in particular, which do have a spring, so it's an issue that we're having to solve here. So there you have it. Let's just A-B that one more time, just so we know. And there we have it, a moderately quick and easy solution to eliminate those unwanted vibrations from lug springs. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Most of you have heard of him. I've got the phone going off in the background, sorry about that. Look at that, Jesus Christ, man, it's like not even open yet.